Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to version 1.12 of F1 25. Yes, today we have had one of the biggest updates we would expect from the game. The Formula 2 2025 cars have been released. That's obviously what we're going to be diving in first of all, but also there's been some massive changes to the way the AI work in kind of wet conditions and their general drivability inside the game as well. I'm going to be doing an old kind of wet race comparison with a new wet race comparison tomorrow, but channel members will be able to access that later on today. But yeah, like I said, the most exciting thing for me personally is definitely going to be the F2 2025 roster, because of course, as I do every year, I will be doing an F2 25 career mode as well here on the channel. So of course, if we take a look then at all of the cars available to us, I want to head over to the showroom first of all, don't I? So we can take a quick look at all of the cars. Of course, first of all, we've got Leonardo Fornaroli, my favourite Formula 2 driver this year, obviously in the #1 Invicta car. Now, obviously, all of the liveries in F2, for those of you that don't watch the series, are slightly different because, of course, all the drivers have their own personal sponsors and things like that. So it is a bit different to what, obviously, you see in Formula 1, where the team's liveries have to be identical. As you can see, we've obviously got Roman Stanek, Pepe Marti, who, of course, has made a name for himself in our F1 25 My Team career mode. Arvid Lindblad is, of course, another driver that is very, very hyped up as we head through the season there. Of course, those two down at Campos. Ollie Goethe, yet another Red Bull car over at MP Motorsport. As you can probably already tell, again, if you don't keep up with Formula 2, Red Bull sponsor a fair share of drivers throughout the series. MP Motorsport, though, have also got Richard Vasseur. I must admit, I do quite like the orange livery. This is kind of more of like the quintessential MP Motorsport car there as well. And of course, the Dutchman looking to try and win the F2 Championship this year. Luke Browning with a rather basic Williams livery as well. They're, of course, one of Williams' junior drivers who has been doing very well this year as well, and he's in that championship fight. Dino Boganovic, of course, a Ferrari junior driver with kind of a more traditional high-tech livery, as you would expect. And, of course, the most famous Formula 2 team has to be Prima. Sebastian Montoya, of course, son of Juan Pablo. I do weirdly quite like this livery. Green, orange, blue and white should never work together, but somehow it does. And then Gabriel Mini, of course, with a BWT livery. What we would expect to see from Racing Point just a few years ago, that iconic pink livery that they have so often ran in so many series. Jack Crawford then down at Lucas Dams Oil, as you can see there with the light and dark blue livery. Of course, the young American was tied with a potential move to Cadillac for next year, but of course we know now that isn't happening. Kush Miney with another BWT paint scheme as well there. Victor Martins down at ART, again with another Williams livery there, similar to obviously the one of Luke Browning, but with a few more of his own personal sponsors. Rotoma Miata, of course, fantastic Toyota Gazoo Racing livery, just like we had back in F2 2024. I think this livery is incredible. And obviously, maybe down the line we could do like a Toyota career mode as well inside this game. Amory Cordial, though, obviously down at Rodin, arguably the worst driver now in FIA Formula 2. He's been around for far too long, alongside, of course, Alexander Dunn, one of the highest touted prospects from the F2 series this year. Of course, the McLaren junior driver. Again, that livery looks absolutely fantastic. Joshua Dirksen then down at AIX, of course. Nice controversial engine, mate. Yes, I'm still salty about that from last year. Alongside Key and Shields. Again, those AIX cars are with a fairly similar livery. Sammy Megatunov, though, down at Trident alongside Max Esterson. Oh, no, there we go. I thought for a second the iRacing logos might not be on the car. But there we go. In F1 25... even iRacing exists inside the game as well, which I personally do think is hilarious. It's like how in most GT racing games they had like the Gran Turismo banner from back when they were sponsoring obviously a lot of the GT3 racing. John Bennett, though, down at VAR, then of course our final team, VAR, celebrating 50 years of motorsport this year alongside Rafael Villagomez as well. So yeah, two liveries that are pretty much the same. So I think today, though, we're going to jump in. I want to do a kind of full-blown series as Leonardo Fornaroli, but I also plan on doing a stream series with Alexander Dunn as well. So I could go with the Irishman for this video, but I feel like I want to try and drive as someone a little bit different as well there. So I think for this one, we are going to run as... You know what? We'll run as... I want to go with a new livery for this year. I've got no idea. We're going to run as someone, and I'm going to see you guys down on the track. Well, I've decided then, yeah, you know what? We'll run the Toyota Gazoo livery of Ritomo Miata. He's not having the best time in Formula 2. I think, to be honest, this will likely be his last season. But he is still, yeah, a fantastic-looking livery on that Toyota car now. I do actually do some F2 setups now on Mat 2 and 2 Racing. I've temporarily paused them just to wait and see as to whether the cars feel the same as they do on the 2024 cars. They normally do, obviously they should do, and of course with the, you know, the F2 cars, unlike Formula 1 cars, don't change every year. Yeah, these things do feel absolutely identical, so... I have driven them a few times on this game, and of course, yeah, if you want setups for them as well, they will be coming out on Mat 2 and 2 Racing over the coming weeks as well. But yeah, one of the things I know with the F2 cars, back on F1.24, the traction on them was awful. They would either have grip or they wouldn't. That seems to have carried over a little bit inside F1.25. But nowhere near as prominently as I think we're going to be last anyway. But I've just gone and accidentally invalidated my lap. But yeah, you've kind of just got to be very, very careful, very, very smooth with the cars. They always want to kind of lock the rears. They want to wheel spin a little bit on corner exit. But the biggest thing about the Formula 2 cars is the turbo lag on them. They, you know, you've got to almost, I think, you know, famously... and Senna, of course, back in the late 80s with the big turbo cars then, he would mash the throttle through the corner, like, repeatedly to obviously try and keep the turbo spinning. Now, I wouldn't recommend quite doing that, but I would say, you know, you want to try and keep a little bit of throttle in the car through corner exit, just to give yourself a bit of a fighting chance, obviously, because if you try and go from 0 to 100, it's just going to break traction and immediately rotate around on you. So keeping that turbo spooled is really, really helpful, because short shifting does not work in these F2 cars. We're going to start, though, from the back of the field. Apparently, immediately, I've become Richard Vershaw. But yeah, let's head down into a quick race. Well, there we go. It's always interesting as well, of course, because it seems like some of the F2 drivers are often obviously made a bit better than others inside the game. Richard Vershaw takes pole position here in Baku ahead of his teammate Ollie Goethe. Amaury Cordial in P3. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Just ahead of Arvid Lindblad. Gabriele Mini ahead of Jack Crawford and Joshua Dirksen. As Roman Stanek, Sebi Montoya and Rafael Villagomez inside your top 10. Leonardo Fornaroli, championship leader, is apparently slower than John Bennett. Make that one make sense. EA as well. I really do hope they go through and fix it. Alex Dunn is 16th. He's been one of the best qualifiers of the year, and apparently here in Baku, he is down in P16. Kian Shields, Max Esterson, Dino Boganovic, half a second off anybody else. Well, so I can only assume that he made a bit of an error. But can we try and fight our way back through as we head into the race?
Baku never fails to disappoint fans of Formula 2, so hold on tight. The cars are set on the grid, and any moment we'll be starting today's race. Welcome to Azerbaijan. This is not your usual racing circuit. It provides one of the most complete tests for the field. Sector 1 sports a set of 90-degree corners around the block, if you like. Sector 2 gets even tighter with the old city walls. Sector 3 just turns 16 to negotiate, and then 2.2 kilometers, flat to the floor, full throttle, in 6th gear, all the way to the end. As we're now moments away from the off, let's take a look at the grid order in which they'll start today's race. Richard Vershaw lines up on pole position, with Oliver Goethe alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Cordial, Lindblad, Gabriele Mini, Crawford, Dirksen, Stanek, Montoya, Rafael Villagomez, Martins, Bennett, Pepe Marti, Leonardo Fornaroli, Miney, Dunn, Browning, Sami Megatunov, Shields, Esterson, Boganovic, and Ritomo Miata completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. I'm Alex Shakes, he's Alex Brundle, and this is FIA Formula 2, where the team have spoken so well about the driver you're looking at in screen at the moment. Alex, it's great to see young talent developing like this.
It's always great to have good references from across the combox, AJ. They really are getting on well, and they're growing in experience, much like the experience that you have behind the microphone.
Well, great to see then as well, of course, that Alex Jakes and Alex Brundle both inside the game. And they, a bit like we see with Crofty and Anthony Davidson, they can have a bit of a, backwards and forwards between them as well then. But ready on the grid from the back of the field. I'm looking forward to this just to see what happens in our first ever race. 7 laps here of the Baku City circuit, of course, with it being the Azerbaijan GP this weekend. It's 5 red lights. And how is launching these things? Yep, you absolutely need to mash the foot to the floor, otherwise the turbo will cut out and you will have no speed down in towards turn 1. I remember, again, on F1.24, it was super easy there to actually hit the anti-stall as Kean Shields immediately trying to make contact with me through turn 1. I don't believe we're 3 wide. He just wants to try and push me down in towards the inside wall. Oh, we're both 3 wide. I'm so sorry, Dino Bogdanovic. I had no idea there was round his outside as well. So got to be a little bit more careful with that. I was hoping that we got some good straight line speed down in towards turn 3 there. Might just be able to have a bit of a look down the inside of Luke Browning. Now, of course, just like Formula 1, FIA Formula 2 isn't really a contact sport, but you do see a bit of bumping and bashing from time to time. If you watch the Monza Pizza race just over a week ago, you'll know, yeah, that Alex Dunn and I believe it was Arvid Lindblad, of course, had a big crash, and then Lindblad didn't realise his wing had gone under the car and proceeded to wipe out Roman Stanek, wasn't it, down at turn 1. But I would honestly, I cannot recommend Formula 2 enough. Just generally speaking, how much more entertaining it is than Formula 1. I try and make a big effort to watch it pretty much every weekend I can. Obviously, only 14 rounds throughout the entirety of the F1 season. But yeah, just obviously gives you a bit more action on those race weekends. And it is always intriguing as well to kind of see the stars of the future making their way through the sport. 2024 with these new cars was absolutely fascinating to kind of see, Ollie Behrman and Andrea Kimi Antonelli struggling. And, well, Isaac Hadjar, of course, did really well. Obviously came second in Formula 2 last year. Obviously then got that very, very late call-up to V-Carb for this year. And I think everybody, even including me, thought he was going to really struggle. But clearly the pace he showed in F2 has stuck with him into F1 this season as Amaury Cordial leads the way. That is a slightly alarming statistic by the end of lap 1 there. But yeah, Formula 2, I think, I'm not going to talk about this video without talking about some of the controversy with the Mechachrome engines. They do tend to break down quite a lot, which is rather frustrating when it's meant to be a spec series. I desperately need to get rid of Mechachrome, but there is kind of a little bit of insider dealings in this series as well. So it's not perfect by any stretch, but the racing is obviously, a feature race is normally about 45 minutes to an hour, and they are action-packed. Obviously, tyre strategy just like you get in Formula 1, but of course you can see even here out in Baku, we've actually got the super soft tyre, which of course is, something that maybe slightly older Formula 1 fans will remember from the series. Before we just moved from a soft, medium, hard, we had super softs, we had hyper soft tyre, we had ultra soft tyre, we had all sorts in Formula 1 for a few years when Pirelli kind of went a little bit mad with things as well there. But yeah, immediately then, obviously settling down into a decent rhythm, just struggling a little bit with the rear brakes there up through the top of the circuit. See, they're just cutting the inside on the exit of the castle. But yeah, the AI, though, seem to be pretty well balanced. Obviously, unlike the F1 cars. Maybe now, of course, the F1 cars have been fixed. But the F2 cars don't seem to be ridiculous off-corner exit or anything like that. They have only got 6 gears. Yeah, luckily they don't seem too prone to understeer either, but yeah, these things obviously only have 6 gears as well, so it is really, really important that you use all of them effectively. Try to rev out the car as best as you can, up to about 8,700 RPM before you're obviously up a gear. I think they will rev all the way to 9,000, if I'm not mistaken. We might be able to find out, and top speeds are normally about 200 miles an hour then, as there we go, there goes 200 on the dash. I mean, I'm pretty certain these are the second quickest racing series on the planet. They're only slower than Formula 1 cars around the track. I'm pretty certain they are quicker than both Super Formula cars and Indy cars as well. And obviously, unlike Formula 1, I don't believe they still come with power steering either. So these things can be a real challenge for the drivers. I mean, this kind of feels like an advert for Formula 2 at the moment. I promise you, this video is not sponsored, but, you know, if a Formula 2 team wanted to invite me out for one of the last couple of rounds of the year, I would not complain. I'm happy to fly the flag of allegiance. Especially Leonardo Fornaroli. If his team, if Invicta want to send me out, I would love that. And I'd make some great content for you as well. But yeah, I mean, inside the game, though, they kind of feel like a better version, similar to how F1.25 feels like a better version of F1.24. These Formula 2 cars feel like a better version of the cars inside last year's game. I remember, especially when it rained, the F2 cars were shocking on last year's title. They just had no grip anywhere, and the AI can absolutely take off from you on corner exit. Similar to what we used to have, or maybe still have, inside F1.25. But in the dry, they are fantastic to race with. You do tend to find a little bit more that the fields can be a bit more DRS train-esque. Sometimes more than what we get in Formula 1, especially around a circuit like this. But, I mean, we're running this on Ultimate AI, and I feel like we are hopefully closing in on Sammy Megatune just a little bit. I think we've got slightly lower wing than the Trident driver, so we might be able to make a move down in towards turn 1. As John Bennett, new fastest lap of the day, things you don't expect to see in FIA Formula 2 as well there. But yeah, the series, though, like I said, really, really good fun. Like I said, I would love to see Formula 3 inside the game. I don't think EA, though, sensibly are going to do that. I don't actually think the Ego engine could handle 30 AI cars either. So I think ever getting the F3 drivers and teams would be a little bit difficult. That being said, though, of course, if they ever did, then I would definitely do a career mode with them as well there. As, I mean, yeah, we're definitely just building up a bit more confidence at the moment, trying not to let the car get out of shape or anything like that. As well, we thought about a move to the inside of Sammy Megatunif there, but again, you've got to be so confident on the brakes, otherwise you'll lock the rears and immediately kind of rotate the car around, and you can't really tune that out of the cars. I've tried to do it a little bit. You can obviously make it more manageable, but it's really not that easy to kind of fully get rid of. It just seems to be kind of a handling aspect of these F2 cars inside this game. But yeah, I think just like real life, though, when I do a series in these cars, it's going to put a huge, huge emphasis on, obviously, qualifying, just like we see IRL. So if you don't know how the F2 qualifying format works, they obviously do a half-hour qualifying session normally on a Friday night, obviously, if everything runs smoothly. Then Saturday's sprint race, the top 10 are reversed. So it basically, obviously, in the sprint race, I believe it's 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the top 8 score points, but the top 10 are reversed, ready for the sprint. And then, obviously, for the feature race on Sunday, the entire grid is obviously as they qualified. So it really now means there's a huge emphasis on trying to make sure you're inside that top 10 in qualifying. Because, say, for example, you qualify 11th on Friday night. You're going to start 11th from both races, irrespective of what happens. So even if you miss out by 1/100th of a second, that's the difference between starting on pole for the sprint and obviously still end up starting 11th. So there is a real emphasis on qualifying. I think it might be ever so slightly too much. But I think, you know, for a long time there probably wasn't enough emphasis on qualifying in Formula 2, as that was a rather, let's say, aggressive move on Sammy Megatunif there, down in towards turn 3, and immediately you can just see how quickly the AI are able to get away there. But yeah, we're able to outbrake them by a little bit there, and obviously kind of, you know, elbowing Sammy Megatunif out off the exit of the corner. And even Luke Browning now, I think, has been able to try and fight his way through. But I quite like these cars inside this game, because obviously you can't really overdrive them. You end up finding yourself losing more time by kind of overdriving them than not. So just keeping them right under the limit at 99% generally is like the better way of going about things as well. Now, obviously, when we get into career mode, and obviously pit stops are a thing, pit stops are a lot slower as well in FIA Formula 2, so making that strategy work, and obviously, you know, you have to pit in the feature race, you don't have to pit in the sprint, but obviously, you know, undercuts, overcuts can be really, really powerful. We saw Luke Browning, I believe it was, no, sorry, it was Zach O'Sullivan, wasn't it, last year, at Monaco, who basically stayed out right until the very end, got very lucky with a virtual safety car, and was able to obviously go from what was going to be like P13 to an effective P1 in the end. You do occasionally get those moments in Formula 2 as well, but where the cars are meant to be identical, you know, the racing is generally a lot closer. It's meant to give you a good idea, you know, of who are going to be the next big things in Formula 1 and everything like that as well. And like I said, I just really enjoy doing, you know, one season of career mode each year with the F2 drivers. Like I said, I think I'm going to do a Leo Fornaroli series on this channel, and then I'm going to do an Alex Dunn series on the second channel, where I try and get him up to Formula 1 as well, and then hopefully continue on that series in the future as well. But obviously that might be live streamed over on my Twitch. We hit 8K on my Twitch last week, so if you want to drop us a follow over there, that would be greatly appreciated as well then, as almost putting myself in the wall. I think that was Luke Browning there, immediately sensing an opportunity to try and have a bit of a look as well. But yeah, you can just see around a track like Baku just how important the DRS is. Staying in that DRS train, it's like playing F1.24 all over again. Just how important the DRS trains are around this circuit as well. There is picking up my second warning of the day. I do not want to finish this race last if I pick up a penalty. Although I do believe in Formula 2, the penalties inside the game are only 2 seconds rather than 3. I don't really know why. It's just the way EA seem to do things inside this game as well there. But making our way then down in towards the final lap, I still believe it's... I think it's Richard Verschoor. I can see his face. I couldn't remember his name for a second. It is still Richard Verschoor that is leading the way then with one more lap to go. But I think we are going to be under pressure from Luke Browning here. So desperate to try and weave to break the toe as we make our way back towards turn 1. But I don't think it's going to really do a lot there, as here comes Luke Browning to the outside. Moving back through into P17. Sammy Megatoon there as well, thinking about a move in towards turn 1, but it looks like we are going to be drag racing them, hopefully back around to the start-finish line, as long as I don't do anything stupid there. You've got to be super careful as well, that if you do lock the brakes, you don't use the curbs, otherwise it kind of just drags the back end round more and more. Like I said, you know, these cars are very different to the F1 cars inside the game. You do have to drive them very differently, and like I said, I just think for my personal skill set, they are a bit more kind of... I feel like I can drive them better than I can the F1 cars inside the game as well. But, well, I mean, Luke Browning immediately is just pulling away from us. I don't know if we've cooked these tyres or are really just struggling with them towards the end. No, I think I'm just driving badly on this final lap of the race. So, gotta try. Again, it's that horrible thing if you can't push them, otherwise you just end up losing yourself more and more time around the lap. So this is critical then as we get ready out on towards the front straight again, because with Sammy Megatoon right behind, and it looks like we're not going to get inside the range of Luke Browning here, we're going to be in real trouble as we make our way back around to the start-finish line there. Nice and tidy down the hill. I'm just impressed I haven't been near at any point in this race as well then. Will I get back inside the range of Luke Browning? Will that give us the defense we need from Sammy Megatoon behind? I think if you nail it, you can just about gain on the AI through the traction zones, but otherwise it can be so difficult to do so there. Nice and smooth out of the final corner. Richard Verschoor is going to take the victory here in Baku. I believe it is going to be a double MP Motorsport podium. For us, those Rotoma Miata were coming under big pressure from Megatoon on the run to the line. We will hang on though, we gained 4 spots. That was a huge amount of fun.
It's always box office when this man's at the front. Richard Verschoor takes the checkered flag.
We've heard stories of drivers watching the race on the big screens while they're going around leading with that kind of advantage. I reckon that's what they were doing, you know, AJ.
And they're making their way onto the podium now. It was a great race for the MP Motorsport team. You have to say, they really deserve to stand on the top step.
Well, there we are then, taking a look at our final results. Richard Verschoor, of course, I completely forgot. You get 2 points as well for qualifying, don't you? He will take the victory ahead of Amory Cordial and Oliver Goethe there. A bit of a cursed top 3, I think it's safe to say. But Arvid Lindblad just getting disconnected towards the end, able to hang on from Gabriele Mini. Crawford just ahead of Dirksen, Stanek, Victor Martins, and Rafael Villagomez there. As you can see, quite a few drivers are able to gain a spot right towards the very end. I'm trying to work out, I think it was Sebi Montoya, yeah, that went way down the order there. Ratoba Miata, though, down in P18. We hang on ahead of Sami Mergatonif by just 0.2 of a second. I promise, when we get into our F2 series this weekend, I will be a little bit more competitive than that. I'm going to get some more practice in, and obviously just test out some more setups inside the game. Thank you all so much for watching, though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Let me know who your favourite Formula 2 driver is as well. And yeah, we'll be back very soon with more F1 25 content.